Hello, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Mr. Jerome Courshon
Yes, sir.
in Santa Monica.
Yes, sir.
You're kind of a unicorn on my channel, I mean, you're a straight guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Hey, I gotta let the minorities in once in a while.
yeah, of course, you can't, if your audience is all LGBTQ, I mean, you got to have a straight dude once in a while, right? Or a
Right.
straight girl.
And I have had both, but yeah, mostly it's just people's stories. That's what I'm interested in.
Cool.
And just to give everybody a little backstory here, Jerome and I met at the showing of Sex, Love, Venice at the Palm Springs Cultural Center. I don't know, a few weeks ago, right? Yeah, you were there with, actually, you're the distributor of the film. And yay, thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
We all the gay boys appreciate it. And you seem like a really cool guy. And I thought, let's have him on my podcast. So
Thank you. Yeah.
there we go.
I love the movie. I think it's a terrific movie, and it really speaks to, for your older audience who watch these podcasts. I think it speaks to something consequential and universal in relationships and life experience. And for the younger folks who watch your podcast, let's say 20s and 30s, it's
Right.
also got a lot of stuff for them. They don't have to watch the movie and get deep. They can enjoy it on maybe a bit more of a surface level, or whatever. I mean, I think it's got
Right.
both. Here's the thing about movies. Most movies are superficial, right? They're not here to they're here to entertain. They're not here to teach. Those movies that do both entertain and impart something of value. Teach is the wrong word, but impart something of value, something of depth.
Right.
I love the movies that can do both. And I think this movie does both. And that's why I was really taken with it, because those are the kinds of movies I love. Yes, I'll watch movies just for the popcorn entertainment value as a consumer. Right. But when a movie comes along that actually has something consequential besides the entertainment value, I just love it.
Right. So for you, what's the message of that movie?
I don't know. Do we really want to give it all away? Don't we want the audience, if they haven't seen it, to go?
Well, I guess you're gonna talk about the ending and what comes up there, right? Is that what you're gonna say?
I mean,
we don't need to go there because we certainly don't want to have a spoiler on here.
Yeah,
it's too fresh. It's too fresh out there. I mean, if it was a 10-year-old movie we're talking about, then
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Listen, I think, again, whoever watches this podcast, if you haven't seen Sex, Love, Venice yet, go rent it. It's $4 and it's going to be worth.
No. I bought it, baby.
Well, you bought a digital copy for whatever.
I bought it on Amazon. It wasn't much. It's like, because I think I've watched it like 6 or 8 times.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I make everybody that comes to my house watch it. Well, I don't make them. That's kind of cruel, but I say you got to watch this movie, and it's true. And then I've had some guys watch it, and then they call their friends, and they've gone on Amazon and they've watched it. So
nice.
yeah,
nice. Yeah,
it's very cool.
It's cheaper than buying a latte at Starbucks, and again, it's entertaining and it has something of value to it. So Starbucks coffee, you drink it in 20 minutes and it's done.
Right. So you mentioned DVD. You can't buy a DVD of it, can you?
No. And I don't know if Steve is going to do that, if he's going to make DVDs available. I don't deal with it as a distributor.
Yeah. Well, is anybody doing that anymore? They're streaming and they're buying, you go back, watch it.
Yeah.
Blah, blah.
I mean, there's a small market for DVDs. It's just not worth it for me as a distributor to spend the hours and hours of prepping and getting them manufactured and dealing with all that. When we might only sell a few hundred, if we were going to be able to sell 5,000 or 10,000, sure. Who's got, I don't know. You probably have a DVD player. Most people I know don't even have a DVD player anymore.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because mine, I've got an Mac and I had an Apple one, which was not cheap, and the stupid thing broke. And it stuck my DVD. I was watching some, I don't know, because I have some from back when, and it got stuck. So I had to take a screwdriver and bang the thing apart just to get my DVD out, and then I threw the thing out. Yeah. So I don't know. But I've got a box full of them. Someday I want to go back and look at some of them. So who knows? I'll probably buy another one.
And I have a DVD player, because I have to have a DVD player.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit the rewind button. Okay, now how'd you get started in all this? Now, I think I remember you saying at the Q&A that you were an actor at one point.
Yeah, when I first...
Run your history. Give me a little verbal bio here.
When I first came to LA, I was pursuing an acting career, and I did that. I pounded the pavement, as we used to say, pound the pavement. You knock on doors, try to get acting work, and I did that for over 10 years.
How'd that go?
Horrible. I mean, I did get a little bit of work here and there, but
right,
you're working hard to get a job. You get a job. It's not going to be a major role. It's going to be a minor role, a character role, a 2-day role. And it's satisfying, but, once every few months or a couple times a year, it got tiring. And when I came to LA, it was at a time when we were still, the 1990s was still, well, the 70s and 80s is before my time in terms of being an adult. But,
right,
the movie industry and the television industry, it was blonde hair, blue-eyed, very American-looking people, okay? No ethnicity allowed unless it's a small character role. And that continued into the 90s when I came here, and I couldn't get major work. It wasn't until maybe the late 90s that things started to turn a little bit, and certainly it wasn't until the double O's that diversity became a thing that casting people and TV producers and movie producers wanted to include. Unless it's a totally black dude or black woman or a obviously Latino person, it's like you can't, what am I? I would be what they would call today ethnically ambiguous. That's an industry kind of thing. I'm ethnically ambiguous. You don't know whether I'm part black, part Latino, part whatever. And there was no place for me in that world. And so it was very tough to get consequential work at the time. And that's okay. It is, if I were 20 years old today, I'd probably book a pilot and be on a TV series, because I have a look that, is acceptable to the viewing public today to be on camera.
Right.
And Melrose Place was probably the first show or one of the first shows to start to include maybe a gay character, right? Or beginning to include someone of color. So, we've come a long way since the late 90s and the double O's, but I just, I didn't want to keep pounding the pavement. I was getting tired of it.
Right. Well, I was in real estate for like 30 or 40 years in Seattle. And I used to tell my friends, it's like looking for a job every day of your life. Trying to get that listing, trying to get the sale. It's all the same stuff.
It is. Exactly.
And it does get tiring, but, I was too stupid to walk away from it. So,
hey, listen, one of the actors in the first movie I wrote and produced, which I eventually gravitated to writing and producing because I kind of didn't want to do that. So, I reached the point where I'm like, well, I kind of do want to do this. So let me start doing this. Anyways, in the first movie I wrote and produced, one of the actors in the movie became a real estate agent, and he's a very successful real estate agent here.
Like in real life?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was a musician, didn't really make it as a musician, was having a hard time making it as an actor, as most actors do, and got married, ended up with 2 kids, and he needed a quote-unquote real job.
Real job, yeah.
He became a realtor, and he's very successful at it.
Oh, I jumped in on your story. So you said, So did you go from acting to the next step that you just described?
Right.
Okay. How long did you do that?
I probably traveled down that road for, 12, 13 years, 10, 12, 13, probably 12, 13 years. And then, and was, relatively happy doing that.
Now, were you in Hollywood then, or were you trying to do the independent thing, or what were you doing?
Independent. Yeah. Okay. Look, most people in LA are in the independent world in one way or another, unless they're working as a suit or an executive at a studio or TV network.
Okay.
Or whatever. Yeah. And then I gravitated into distribution.
Why?
Well,
no, that's an honest question. I'm not being sarcastic. No, like what made you do that?
No, I know. So the first movie I wrote and produced took me 10 years from the point of shooting the movie or writing the script and shooting the movie to getting real distribution. Now, this was at a time when we didn't have streaming and when it was right before the digital revolution. So I had shot the movie on 35 millimeter, like all the studios used to do. and it was very expensive. And it was
Okay,
a long,
stop. How long was that movie? The length, time wise,
a little over an hour and a half. Normal.
and what did film cost back then?
Cost me This is very cheap, but it cost me $100,000 to get the movie shot, not edited, but shot.
And then a whole bunch more.
And then another $75,000 to get through editing and post-production.
Wow.
So all in about $175,000. That's before distribution. That's before film festivals, before marketing, before all of that. And then that added a lot more to it. It was very expensive.
So you had to raise all that money, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
So did the movie get dated and waited? I mean, that's 10 years is a long time.
No, it probably would be considered a little dated now if people watch it now, but it was, well, it's not, I don't think it's dated now. The clothing, you can go, oh, people don't wear that kind of clothing now, but it was such a long journey that I wrote some articles about my journey for some film magazines, some prominent film magazines.
Okay.
That get national distribution, and people would read the story and they would find me, email me, or find me somehow and contact me. I'd get a phone call or whatever. Hey, Jerome, I read your story in Movie Maker magazine.
Right.
What a great story. I need help. I'm in the same position you were in. And honestly, Wilkinson, it was like I would spend maybe an hour on the phone with them, but you can't teach someone distribution in an hour. And I wasn't consulting. I wasn't making that my career of helping people. And after this went on for a couple of years, I would have a couple friends who would say, Jerome, you should be teaching this stuff because you're very good at it. You've had success. And on top of that, 3 people that I personally knew finished their movies. I helped them. And instead of them taking years to get distribution, it took me 4 years to get distribution. Again, this is before streaming. So,
Right.
And I helped them get distribution in 4 months instead of 4 years. Oh. And so they'd be like, you should be teaching this. So I was a reluctant teacher because I don't really see myself as a teacher, but I put together a little class, an evening class for a few hours. And I did that a couple of times. And I just, had 60, 70 people show up to hear what I had to say here in LA. And I decided I wanted to start just doing a one-day class of helping people and teaching them. Because you can't even teach people distribution in 2 hours, or 3 hours. Right. So I started doing a full one-day class, and, one thing just led to another. I just went down the ball started rolling down the hill, and I'm like, no, suddenly I'm teaching distribution to indie filmmakers, and I'm consulting, and I'm helping them, and they're getting distribution, and, so that's how I ended up here. It was not my path that I intended to be on.
But you're not teaching now, right?
No.
Or are you?
No, I really, for the most part, not really. When I launched my own distribution company 3 years ago, I'm like, I'm not teaching anymore. I'm just doing distribution. If people want to learn from me, for the most part, they got to have a completed movie that I want to handle and distribute.
I was talking, my last podcast was Steve Balderson, who was the writer-director on Sex, Love, Venice. And he just, praised you because you were so honest. Because I guess he had, you've heard the story. I mean, you've probably heard way more than me, but I've heard a few where, the guys make the movie and they don't get any money. Because, I forgot to put the limits on their budget in the contract or something like that, right?
The distribution arena is full of sharks and dishonest people. Probably the majority are dishonest and or unethical. And unethical in the sense that in an agreement with a distributor, many filmmakers will agree to, let's say the distributor gets to recoup $30,000 in expenses. Well, it doesn't cost $30,000 to distribute a movie. So it's just a way for them to take money from the movie, from the filmmakers. And if a filmmaker agrees to that, then it's not dishonest. I look at that as unethical. That's why I say sometimes it's just an unethical practice that people agree to. And I don't, I'm just, I don't know. Why am I not like that? I just don't believe in that. And I come from a place of having been a movie producer, of knowing how hard it is and what one goes through. I just don't. If I can make a living, well, even if I can't make a living being honest, I prefer to make a living being honest. And if I can't, then I got to do something else because it's just kind of my zen,
So are you in the Hollywood realm, or are you like outside of that? What do you do?
I don't know. The line's kind of blurred these days. I don't work in the studio system. I did work for HBO. So in a sense, I was in the executive world of a major television network, cable company network. But I did that for 10 years while I was making my movie. So in a sense, maybe I was a part of Hollywood at that time. Now I mean, people not in Hollywood think everybody who lives here is part of Hollywood. But what does that really mean? Does that mean you're part of the Hollywood structure? I mean, most people in LA are not really part of the Hollywood structure unless you're working for Paramount or Warner Brothers or MGM Amazon or whatever. You know what I mean? So, unless you're working with a studio or Lionsgate, do you call yourself part of Hollywood? I don't. I mean, most of the people are in the independent sphere, but because we live here, people outside of California say, oh, you're part of Hollywood. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. I don't, some people want to say I'm part of Hollywood. That's fine. I don't know. You know what I mean? It doesn't really mean anything.
Right. All right. So let me ask you something. So looking at the trajectory of your life and all the things you've done, now you're doing what you're doing now, what you just described. Is this where your passion is, or is this going to take you somewhere else?
No, I think this is where, I will do more producing. I'm not doing any producing currently, and I won't be probably for another couple years, but I like it. I like producing. I enjoy it, but I also like what I'm doing now. It's challenging. It's very challenging, and I like challenges. I have to be challenged, or maybe I get bored. So I like the challenge. It's a real mountain to climb, and I think a lot of people who try to start distribution companies can't do it. I know some people who haven't been able to do it, and they've tried.
Right.
It's very challenging, especially in today's environment. And I don't want to bore your audience, but the amount of revenue that movies make today, independent movies, is a lot less than it used to be.
Of course.
In the DVD days, you could count on a certain amount of income if you were getting good distribution.
Right.
You can't anymore. You're relying on, a lot of independent movies are relying on advertising dollars to make their money. And that's very difficult,
How does that work?
Well, when people
the advertising dollars.
Yeah, people watch a movie on any of the ad platforms like Tubi, where you can watch for free, but you get served advertising. Zumo.
So it's like my podcast, which I haven't reached that stage. YouTube up the whole thing, but so the ads are coming on, and you're getting a few cents for when they watch it.
Yeah, I mean that's how a lot of independent movies are making money today. If they're making money at all, that's how they're making money. Okay. If there are names, star actors, Michael Keaton or whoever is in your movie, well, great. You can probably get what we call a license deal from an HBO or a Stars,
right,
or a Hulu, or, somebody, Peacock. And then that's an actual amount of money that's paid for having the rights to put your film on their platform for a period of time. But that's not most movies. It's a lot of movies, but it's not most movies,
Plus, if Michael Keaton is in it, you've spent a lot of money to have Michael Keaton in it, right?
Yeah, most likely. So it's a very challenging business, but I like it. I enjoy it. I could probably see doing this mostly for the rest of my life. And I've always had kind of a business mentality anyways. Before I started doing this, even before I produced, I ran a couple of small businesses here in LA while I was struggling as an actor. The way I supported myself was having a couple of different small businesses that provided me with the income to pound the pavement for 5 hours a day, so.
Okay. You said most distributors are dishonest.
Yeah.
And you don't that's not how you don't roll that way, right?
No.
Okay. So why? What made you different from all of them?
It's a good question.
I always like going down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. That's a good question. I grew up in Chicago, in a suburb of Chicago. I had very honest parents. Honest, you could say honest to a fault, but it's not a fault. They were just very, very honest people.
Right.
And I probably got those values from them. I guess I would have had to have gotten those values from them. And where I grew up was the Midwest is a very down-to-earth place.
Right.
It's where you stand with people generally. I like to use this example. Let's say it's a great example, really. I traveled to Chicago some years ago for something I had to do there. And I still have family there. But I went there and I took the train from O'Hare Airport down to the downtown area of Chicago, and then got off the train and was going to walk to my hotel, which was downtown Chicago. And I've got my roller suitcase, and I was on a sidewalk that was not really wide. I was on a street with not a very wide sidewalk. And I'm not walking that fast. And I'm rolling along with my suitcase, and somebody behind me wants to pass me, but he doesn't want to walk into the street, into the curb area. And he's like, get the fuck out of the way. Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. And you know what? I mean, that's probably like New York too. A lot of people just get the fuck out of the way. It's not like, hi, sir, could you please move? I mean, that's the more polite thing to do. But you know where you stand with people. It's like, get out of my way. Okay, sorry. No, it's not this phony. LA is full of phony people and people who lie all the time.
Right.
And I think I would say people in the Midwest, they lie too, but they lie less than the people on the West Coast. That's my experience. Sorry to all the people who live on the West Coast watching this, but I think people lie more, or at least in LA and in Hollywood, people lie more. I will tell you that of every filmmaker and producer that I work with, easily 50% of them lie to me. Now, I'm who they're choosing as their distributor, but they lie about things to me. And I don't understand. It doesn't make sense.
Oh.
But just be honest with me.
Right.
I don't know why.
If you're on the same team, why not?
Tell me if I ask a question, tell me the freaking truth. Don't lie to me. So it's I just attribute it to the nature of people today. Not necessarily industry people, but the nature of people today. I will have people, Wilkinson, I'll have people who pitch me their film to distribute, and I'll do a little research beforehand, and I'll find out it's already out in distribution, maybe on Amazon and maybe on another platform.
Really?
And they don't tell me that. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not going to handle your film if it's already in the marketplace. Just tell me.
Right.
I don't know what is going through the mind of some of these people who do that. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like in my real estate career, somebody's already signed up with another agent, and then they're coming to me and asking me stuff. And it's like, legally, I can't even talk to you. I mean, it's a little different than that, but it's the same thing. The other funny thing about Seattle, when you're talking about the suitcase story, so I moved from New York to Seattle, and it's like, there's a picture of four-way stop, right? Nobody moves. They're so fucking polite. They're all sitting there, who's going to go next? So I just
happens, and that
put on my horn and go through. It's like, man.
That happens here too. In Santa Monica, I'll come to a stop, and maybe one or two other people come to a stop, but they hit their stop right before I did, and I'm like, okay, they're first, and then they sit there, and I'm like, and sometimes I'll wave them, right, and they still don't go, and if they don't go, then I just go,
and then they go though. So many times, then you go and then they go. It's like, come on.
So I don't know. I think it's just where I grew up and having parents who really impressed upon the need to have integrity in one's life and not screw people over. And I know that there is a belief that to get ahead, you have to fuck people over. A lot of people have that belief, and I don't have that belief. They could be right. But I just don't want to live my life like that. I'm not a saint. I'm not saying I'm a saint. I just don't want to live my life like that.
I want to hear the dirt. Just kidding. Don't tell me the dirt. Okay, so when I was married before I figured out I was gay. So I was married. It was 1999. I got divorced, figured out I was gay, but I really wanted to do independent film. The thing that stopped me was what you mentioned earlier. When I figured out what it costs for that film, I saw. So then I picked up the camera and started doing photography instead. So looking at that, then you had the digital thing come on, and everything's changed. Where do you see everything go in the next 10 years? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, now if
you got a crystal ball, you got a crystal ball.
Yeah, if you wanted to make a movie now, you can do it very inexpensively.
Right.
There are people making movies for $5,000-$10,000 now. They aren't necessarily going to be great production, what we call production value movies. With a lot of.
And you are not going to distribute them.
It depends. If it's well done, I mean, I don't ask filmmakers their budget. I evaluate movies based on what I'm seeing on my screen and the quality of the sound and the production. And I'm sure I've handled some very low budget movies that probably didn't spend more than 5 or 10,000, but if they're watchable and they're decent, and I think I can generate revenue for the producer, then yeah, I'll distribute it. I don't ask people their budgets, because you could have a $300,000 budget and it could be a piece of shit, you know?
Right.
I don't know where I see the industry 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now. I mean, streaming is the ubiquitous way that people view content, view movies and TV now. The theaters are not going to die, but we have lost a lot of screens. A lot of theaters have gone under, but I don't think they're going to disappear completely at all. So I don't know. It's a good question, but I don't really have a prognostication on that.
Yeah, that's actually was going to be my next question. Is you think theaters are going to go away? But
No.
it's like there'll always be a place for it. It's kind of like a book. You know, you can do an ebook, but sometimes you just want to hold a book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think the thing with theaters is that the reason I say they won't go away is because most people don't want to be a couch potato 7 nights a week. They want to go out, whether it's a restaurant or shopping or, golfing or, an event. So if you're, especially if you're dating somebody, right? If you're dating somebody and, maybe even if you don't live together, but you're dating somebody and you're going to go out Friday or Saturday night with them, what, are you going to really spend the whole night on your living room couch watching a movie? Maybe some weekends you might, but you're not going to do that every weekend. You want to go out. You want to do stuff. So theaters are one of the handful of things that are available to the public to go do and get out of your home and have a fun experience, because I know that some years ago, I think Lucas and Spielberg, they were on some round table, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and someone else, and they were on some round table. And one of them said theaters were going to completely die. And I was like, you're out of your freaking mind. You're out of your mind. That's like saying amusement parks will die. No, they're not going to die. I don't know.
They may thin out a little bit, but they're not going to go away.
Yeah. I mean, look, if people who are 60 years old, are they going to go out on a Saturday night if they're dating? Are they going to go out on a Saturday night? Maybe not. Maybe they'll be at home. But, you're in your teens or 20s. You're not going to stay at home and watch everything on your couch when you're dating, or even if you're married. Married with kids? Yeah, you're probably not going out.
Right. So you just talked about the quality of the film, the cinematography, the sound, stuff like that. So that if it's great, you'd be directed to that. But how about content? What do you look for?
My criteria basically is it entertaining? Can it make money? Can it generate revenue for the producer?
Right.
If it's not that entertaining, and I use myself as a barometer, I think if I'm bored after 10 or 15 minutes, usually it's a pass, because if I'm bored, then I know 80% of the public will be bored. Okay. So as long as it's entertaining or at least holds my interest, if it holds my interest and I think I can make money with it, yes, I don't care what genre, horror, thriller, drama, comedy, LGBTQ, whatever. If it doesn't hold my interest, forget it. If I like it and it holds my interest, but I don't think I can generate revenue for it, then I have to pass on that too, because I spend so much time taking on a project and prepping it and getting it ready for distribution and getting it pitched and on the platforms, the the video on demand platforms, the streamers.
So you have contacts with all these peeps on the different platforms and stuff, right? Is that how you work it?
Yeah.
Could I have a copy of your little black book, please?
Why, you want to become a distributor?
No, I don't. That's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. As I indicated before, not for the faint of heart.
Maybe you could coach me on my podcast and get me to the next level. I don't know.
Podcasts are not my thing, but
I don't.
There is a lot of marketing one needs to do, I suppose, to grow the audience, right?
Right. Well, I took kind of a hiatus when I changed everything in my life, sold my big house, moved to a little condo, cleared all debt, blah, blah, blah. So
whose painting is behind you? Whose painting is that behind you?
That is Richard Roberts. I bought that when I moved to Palm Springs about 8 years ago. I love abstract art. And he was, I think the gallery owner said he was like 91 when he painted that.
Wow.
So I'm guessing He's probably not around, right? I'm guessing. He could be. He'd be like 99.
You would probably like some of the art. One of my kids is a painter, and he does
Really?
a lot of abstract stuff, which I think is cool.
Right.
You'd probably like some of his stuff.
What's the one behind you?
Yeah. So this one is from an artist actually from the part of the south suburbs of Chicago. I believe he's still alive because I looked him up maybe last year just to see if he was still around, and I think he still is.
Right.
He does a lot of these. They're not huge. And I forget what media he used on that, but it's I don't know. It's two guys.
It almost looks like I can't see it very well, but it looks almost like a watercolor to me.
Yeah. I forget.
Well, I don't know what the subject is. It gasoline pumps or tombstones?
No, they're doors. They're doors that say yes on them.
Okay.
And so one guy has a big ring of keys, and he's got his arm around another guy, an older man with a cane, and the guy with the keys, like the gatekeeper, the master, is saying, it will open, one of these doors will open for you eventually.
Wow.
Which is kind of a metaphor for a lot of people. Maybe for me, but certainly it spoke to me, and it's kind of a metaphor for a lot of people in life. It's like you're always you're knocking on doors, you're trying to get to the next step, and sometimes it just seems impossible. But if you keep going, you do get to the next step, whatever that is, right? It's about perseverance, and not a lot of people are perseverant. I don't know. Maybe 20% of the population might be perseverant, but there's probably 80% that isn't.
So that's a positive message. So it's not like the three doors, heaven, hell, and purgatory. The old guy's going to go in one of those.
Yeah. No, it's a positive message.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's because underneath there, it's like, I forget what the exact words are, but he's saying, we're going to get one of these doors open eventually, something like that. I have to turn around and read it, and I don't have my glasses on either. So
how have doors opened for you? Have you opened them, or what happened?
No, I'm pretty much the person who opens the doors. I don't have an older guy with a key ring opening doors for me.
Okay.
I'm pretty much self-made. Not a self-made millionaire, but self-made. I came to California with no connections and nobody, no nepotism, relative or cousin who could give me a leg up. And every step of the way, it's kind of been on my own, although not to be necessarily spiritual, though we can go there. I think that I believe in God, and I think the universe provides. I'm not going to, like you say, God provides. I don't usually say that, but I think I do like to say universe. Do you
have a religious background that you grew up with?
Not really. My parents believed in God, but they didn't make us go to any house of worship. Yeah. Right. And they didn't go to any houses of worship. So, we were pretty, not atheistic, but, us.
Well, I come from a Christian background, actually studied for the ministry.
Wow.
And I was like, what? But, I was talking to somebody. It's like, I don't know if you know all, hell, damnation stuff, but fear-based, fear-based thing. And I must have gotten saved 12 or 15 times because but I've walked away from all that basically.
I don't subscribe to the religions that are fear-based, and there are a lot of them. I don't subscribe to that because it's manipulative. It's manipulative, and it's about control.
Exactly.
You got to be this way or do this, or you're going to hell. I don't even know if hell exists. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But, manipulation and control is, I don't subscribe to that. Right. People, I think we have free will for the most part. So, we're a choice to choose whatever we want to believe in, or whatever we want to subscribe to. It's not that I think there is a morality I think there's a morality in the universe, and we're a choice whether we want to live a life of morality or have some morals in our life or not. And it's going to be different for different people, right? Because a lot of people think being gay is immoral, but they're full of shit, honestly. They're choosing a moral that fits what they want to believe. I think there's absolute morality, but the absolute morality that I probably would subscribe to is do no harm to another person.
Right.
And that's probably it. If you live your life without doing harm to others and manipulating others, then you're probably living a very moral life. And that's as far as morality probably really goes, because each society has their own definition of what is moral, but it's created but man has decided that, not God.
Right. Right.
But in religions, the religion says God has decided that, but I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
Right. No.
The Bible, boy, I'll probably piss off people by saying this, but in the Bible, there is so many things that, you can go to quote unquote hell for. Eating shellfish, really? Sleeping with another person's wife or whatever. Okay, I don't agree with people who do that, but I don't think someone's going to go to hell for that, But that is doing harm to the spouse of who you're sleeping with, right? Especially when they find out.
Right.
So I don't agree with that from a moral point of view, because it's doing harm to someone. So, there's a lot of bullshit in life and a lot of bullshit in religions. I think the basic core of most religions of love one another and do unto them as you would be, have them do unto you. I mean, that to me is the core of it. And all this other stuff, or most of this other stuff, is BS. What do you think?
I agree with that, but you said something about all the religions have that, but the problem is that's on paper for a lot of them, and it's not really what they're living. That's the big problem.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah,
most people are living hypocritical lives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm staying away from politics, but just look out there, what's going on. It's like, oh my God, But to me, and for me, basically where I'm at right now is I've stopped watching the news, like cold turkey stopped, because everything is who knows what's going on really. And I've been consuming podcasts that build me up, and I learn stuff, and I've been reading more books than I've read in probably my adult life. And I've done it in the last few months, just like reading. Right. And it's kind of like I've gone back to school. But for me, the whole thing boils down to, are you living a life of fear, or are you living a life of love? That's it. That's the bottom.
Well, and that's kind of very Marianne Williamson-ish, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you probably read some stuff or know who she is, right?
Yeah, I know of. I haven't read a lot, but yeah, I know.
She as someone who taught and preached Course in Miracles for a long time before she became kind of a big book author and whatnot.
Right.
Although it was about, do you come from love or do you come from fear in anything and everything?
Right.
I think that is probably some absolute truth of some sort.
And I don't mind promoting. There's a guy on a podcast I listen to sometimes, Aaron Abke, and he talks about a lot of that stuff. He's very, very good.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So what I try to ask everybody as we're winding down is, what guides your life? What are you living by?
Do no harm unto others,
Right.
Live my life with, as much integrity as I can, be kind to others. That can be challenging because, especially in the political environment we're in now, sometimes I'm not kind to people of a certain political persuasion, shall we say, online.
Right.
I guess and I don't do a lot of politics on Facebook or online anyways, but let's say I comment on someone's post or something. If somebody attacks me because I'm a liberal or I believe in, whatever, if I'm attacked, I usually will attack back. Can't help it. But, so that's be one of my failings, I suppose. I stand up for myself. Standing up for oneself is one thing. Let's put it this way. Turning the other cheek. I don't always believe in turning the other cheek. And that comes from, the Bible or Jesus. I think that sometimes politics or not, sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. And there are cases, there's not an absolute rule on this in my mind. Sometimes you should turn the other cheek. And I've learned to do that. And sometimes you have to fight back. And I've done that as well in my life. So, I take each situation as they come.
Right.
There's a lot of liberals and a lot of lefties who say, you just got to be kind. You got to love them. You got to love who you don't agree with politically. You have to love your haters. And I'm like, I don't know, I think that's a bastardization of turn the other cheek. That's my opinion. Because each situation may call for something different. Look, Larry Kramer, you know who Larry Kramer was?
Yeah.
Did he turn the other cheek? Hell no. He fought. And because he fought, he got changes with Anthony Fauci and that whole bureaucracy back in the 90s and 1990s to help the gay community with the AIDS problem. Right. And I've used him as an example in other things. It's like, if he just turned the other cheek and said, okay, they'll come around eventually, they wouldn't have come around eventually. You had the Reagan administration that didn't give a shit, really. So sometimes you have to fight, and you have to fight fire with fire. And I think that some of his tactics, I know, turned off some people, but you know what? It worked. He didn't kill anybody. But, you know, so it's just that, anyways, I've gone down this rabbit hole now about, you know, turning the other cheek versus fight for what you believe in. Sometimes we have to fight for what we believe in, whatever that looks like, as long as we're not truly harming another.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure all this stuff out right now. But to me, what I'm coming to believe is, you know, all of this bullshit that's going on, you know, the powers that be, whatever. I don't know who's behind what, you know, but do I want to give my energy over to all that stuff? That's kind of where I'm coming from with, I don't want to, because I start to type the comment on Facebook and then I delete. I'm not going to be part of this.
Yeah, that's probably.
I'm not throwing my energy on this. I'm just not going to do it.
For your own mental health, it's probably best not to. I mean, you know, because in truth, we're not going to change anybody's mind on social media that we don't agree with. We're not going to change their mind. So it might feel good in the moment to express some anger or to respond in kind, but you know, it's only an emotional hit we get from that. It's just not going to change their mind. Although maybe we're planting a seed. I mean, the other side of it is maybe you're planting a seed. And when they hear or see something 1,000 times, maybe they'll wake up a little bit. You know, I don't know.
Maybe. To be determined. Hey, mister, this has been fun.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I thought it would be.
Yeah.
We didn't know where it was going to go.
Yeah, I didn't know. And you know, so it was fun. And
it was a good conversation.
Hopefully anybody watching gets some value out of it, whatever that value is, you know, or just entertainment value.
Yeah. So what I would like you to do is, I usually don't say all this on here, but send me a short bio and also any contact info you want on there. And I'll put that in the show notes, the episode notes.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Have a good dinner.
Take care. And again, to your audience, go watch Sex, Love, Venice. I think you'll enjoy it.
We appreciate you helping us with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.